The second law of pure success is unconditionally high standards. See, whatever standards we set for ourselves, they actually create a line of demarcation between what we claim we want and what we actually get. There's often this self-constructed illusion that people make up about themselves, and you may have heard it before, or you may have even, like me, at some point had the same illusion yourself, which is we are who we are. I know, it's pretty common, and truth be told, it's unfortunate. Because the truth is, we are who we decide we're going to be. So there's no way around it. If we want greater success, then we've got to raise our standards. We know that there's so much recent research around the concept of this neuroplasticity, to the point where even trying to claim that we are who we are is kind of a weak argument. Because the fact is, when we cling to a powerful identity, and when we decide to make changes that go beyond the short-driven, I'll try it type of temporary changes, our brains can and will create new connections. And over time, the new standards that we demand can become permanent habits. And the more we operate from a place of high standards, the more our brain remembers those high-level achievements and integrates them. Now, a funny thing is that many people have already heard the idea that we should raise our standards, and many people may have even agreed with it. But what's interesting is, as overtly simple as it may sound, the truth is, most people right now, they couldn't even tell you what their standards are. So the struggle isn't that many people don't understand the concept of raising their standards. The issue is that many people haven't even clearly set standards. When they think of raising a standard, it becomes some vague or ambiguous idea. Most people haven't decided exactly how well they're going to treat each other. Many people haven't even decided exactly how they're going to treat each and every customer in their business. Most people haven't decided their standard for how well they're going to treat their staff, or how many books they're going to read, or how many training seminars they're going to attend, or how much time they're going to spend with their family, or how lovingly they're going to treat their spouse or their partner or their friends. And most people, even if they do have a standard at all, that standard is usually set for when things are going well. And if that's the case, then that means the standards for those people are fluid. They're just based on how they feel in the moment, or how the external circumstances happen to be going at the time. Am I right? Because there are some people out there that have a standard to treat their husband, wife, boyfriend, or girlfriend wonderfully, as long as everything's going okay. They're still living in reaction mode, so when things go to hell, so go their standards. And as I said in the beginning of the section, if we're going to achieve high levels of success, we must commit to unconditionally high standards, because not only is the world watching you, you're watching yourself. You're not just convincing everybody else who you are, you're convincing you who you are. Every moment and every day. That's why when people develop habits of doing something that they themselves don't approve of, and they do it over and over again, they start to cop out and just say, oh, well, that's just the type of person I am. But the truth is, it's not. It's the type of habit that they developed. Up to this point, they've done something so many times, they've convinced themselves that it is them. It's like an identity that's unchangeable. And I get it. I'm speaking from experience myself. I get it. The process may not be easy, but it's also not complicated. Things can change for all of us in an instant when we decide to set a certain standard. I remember years ago, if you recall my story at the beginning of this course, after I wound up in the hospital for a couple days, I didn't just think something had to change. I knew something had changed. One thing that absolutely changed was my standards. And I decided that from now on, I was going to be a person who learned like obsessively. I went back to college. I went to get my bachelor's degree. I got my master's degree. I wanted to be better at being me, not just educationally, in everything. I wanted to reach more people and impact more lives. I raised my standards about how well I listened to feedback, especially from my wife, because I had been so stubborn and still am to some aspects, but I raised the standard of how I critiqued myself. Not in a self-deprecating way, but analytically. And trust me, I continue to be a work in progress, and I know I always will. And I know one of the biggest pieces of resistance that some people have to raising their standards is they still believe that old, outdated story that's been proven wrong by so much research. They still believe that raising your standards is the same as perfectionism. That if you raise your standards too high and you don't meet those standards, then you'll wind up with some kind of anxiety problem or depression. And that's simply a misunderstanding of the facts. Because the reality is people tend to suffer more by having low standards for themselves than they do by having high standards. Because people with higher standards, they tend to evaluate those standards not from a place of criticism or intolerance, but they tend to evaluate those standards from a place of curiosity and progress. And those people tend to thrive. Those people like you and I, people who succeed and are determined to succeed, not because of some illusion of perfectionism, but because of a clear and intentional path that they've decided to forge to the next plateau in their life, those people suffer less. So raising your standards in your business, in your personal life, in your professional life, in your social life, it's not a burden. It's actually a relief. When you raise your standards, you're less likely to be stressed, less likely to have anxiety, less likely to feel depressed. And that's a win. I think it's 4 wins. It's a good thing. So that's law number 2. We've got to make sure we've set unconditionally high standards.